the thing that people are most nervous about is the unknown.
Yes.
So I had no idea. Like, I didn't know what my friends were going to think when they saw me. I didn't know what opportunities I would have, because people with disabilities, you don't see them.
I'm Carol Ofori, and this is The Comeback, a podcast about resilience, healing, and the strength it takes to keep moving forward.
Some life stories challenge everything we think we know about strength. At just 22 years old, Jodi Kroone's life changed in an instant. A devastating car accident left her with a spinal cord injury and paralyzed from the chest down. But that wasn't the end of her story. In fact, it was just the beginning of a new one. Jodi refused to be defined by her accident. Today, she is a national-level adaptive surfer, a rally driver, and a powerful voice for disability, inclusion, and resilience. This is the story of perseverance, of sport, of spirit, and rising against the odds. This is The Comeback. Jodi, thank you so much for being here. It is such a privilege to have you on The Comeback.
Hello, Carol. Nice to see you again.
Can you talk to us about that life-changing day? Tell us about who you were before the accident. Let's start there. What was life like for you at 22?
I had just moved to Joburg to start my career, and I had luckily graduated with BA in corporate communications. So I wanted to start with my right foot forward in the highest city in South Africa that I could, Sandton. And I got a really nice job as a PA, so things were settling in very nicely. I had my own flat, and life was just carrying on. I felt like I was just the average 22-year-old at that point. I was just hoping to not pick up any bad habits at work. I really wanted to be a hard worker. I was interested in so many different things. So I thought being a PA would be perfect, because from planning work dinners to helping them design their housing to doing this to welcoming guests to the office, it was just so different and so many varieties of job roles that I really just enjoyed having so much on the go, not like one thing. So I think I just wanted to start by understanding how the business world worked and meeting people and seeing what I could possibly do. I think corporate communications, I did want to do something like sort of like radio or TV or something, but I wasn't sure what. So I thought that would be a good start.
Okay. And so the 8th of October 2017, everything changed. On that day, was there anything that you look back and say, I had a feeling something was going to happen on this day, and things just happened the way they did? Or did everything just happen? And what happened?
So it's quite strange. That day I was with my best friend, and we were just relaxing together, and it actually started hailing, and we had to move my car because we were worried about the hail. So it's so weird to think that like in a few hours time that car would have been written off, so the hail didn't even make a difference. So that sometimes I think about. I also had a hairdressing appointment that day, which I was grateful for, because then I was in hospital for 4 months, so at least my hair looked good.
Oh my God. You just going with the silver linings of everything.
Focus on the good. And then my friend and I were just driving, and I didn't realize that there was going to be a T-junction at the end of this road, and I was going quite fast. I had a really nice Ford Fiesta, and I just turned the corner too fast, and the car rolled. So it was just crazy, and I don't know. I didn't know much about the disability world, so I didn't know what was in store for me from that moment. All I could think about was my car's gone. I've written it off. I'm going to need to take a few days off of work. Is my best friend okay? Like, those thoughts were going through my head. I never had a thought that this moment could impact the rest of my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And was your friend okay?
She was completely fine. She didn't even get admitted, which I'm so grateful for, because obviously I was the driver.
Right.
But on the other hand, I'm like, how can we be a couple centimeters apart and this happens to me and someone is okay? Like, it's just crazy.
So how did you get injured? What happened that you...
My side of the car landed on the barrier as it rolled. So that side of the car sort of crushed me in. And that broke my neck and my back. Luckily, the paralysis only started from my chest injury. But also my collarbone, my ribs were cracked and broken, and my lungs collapsed eventually from all the what's it called?
All the pressure, broken bones.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
Like inflammation almost.
Right.
So in that moment, I just kept thinking like, okay, we fine. Ambulance came. I remember them using the jaws of life to open my side of the car, and I just kept thinking, flip my car, my parents, like different things were running.
Nothing was saying, am I okay? You were just worried about everything else.
Yeah, and it's so weird. Whenever I chat to other people and they tell me like, I knew in that moment, like I can't move my feet. I didn't have that moment.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't like, I think I could still move my feet, and like it was just very confusing. So maybe the swelling hadn't set in or something, but that wasn't my first thought.
So now you're in hospital. When did they tell you the news?
I think the hospital staff are very well trained to give that kind of notice to someone that their whole life is going to be different. So basically, I had a couple of surgeries. I ended up going on life support, which was quite scary because you're actually fully conscious, but you've just got like tubes down your throat and your family's standing next to you and they're freaking out. And so that was quite traumatizing. Yeah. But like I said, I just kept thinking, okay, this is a chapter. I know so many people who've gone to hospital and come out fine. Like, you come here to heal. So yeah, that didn't really come until I went to the rehab where they were like, okay, you know that you can't move. And I thought, I'm just in shock. Like, I'm sure it's going to come. I'm just like freaking out a little bit.
How many days would you say this is?
This is probably about 2 or 3 weeks after the accident.
Wow.
And when I started to realize. And then with paralysis, you get a thing called spasms where your feet are sort of like, well, your whole body is sort of responding to like touch and things now because your signals are starting to like settle down and not be in so much shock. So when I started having spasms, that was the first time I felt like, oh my gosh, I can't control those. What is that? And then I realized like, oh my gosh, okay, I can't feel my feet. I can't. And again, I just thought, okay, it's just shock. It's going to go. And then I went to the rehab, and in rehab, they brought me a wheelchair and they brought me like different activities to do, to maneuver. And they would say things like, because when you're in a shopping mall, you have to be careful of this. And I was like, wait, like,
why are you telling this?
Yeah, I'm just
this
thinking.
This is just temporary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then I remember them saying like, we're going to help you plan the rest of your like year or whatever. So do you want to give notice on your flat, or should we get a physio to go in there and like design it for a wheelchair? And I was like, the flat that I live in, like, why would I need a wheelchair there? It was so weird to have to start thinking like that. But now, because it's been 8 years, it's second nature. But back then I was like, no, this feels extreme.
Yeah, this feels extreme. Now, you suffered a T3 spinal cord injury, as you said, paralyzed you from the chest down. You've just described to us the first moments of finding out that this is the new life or your new normal. How did you take that news? How did you, because I'm listening to you talk now and you're just silver lining every single thing. Yeah. And I'm just like, wow, were you silver lining that moment as well, like you are depicting? Or did at some point you really take it in and it hit the pit of your belly that this is it?
No, Carol, sorry, I still have those moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, because I'm quite a tall person as well, so sometimes I miss my heart. So little things during the day will remind me like how much easier life used to be. But back then, I think the thing that people are most nervous about is the unknown.
Yes.
So I had no idea. Like, I didn't know what my friends were going to think when they saw me. I didn't know what opportunities I would have, because people with disabilities, you don't see them unless they're in Olympic sports or something.
Correct,
so I was like, what does the average day, every day look like? So the unknown was just the scariest thing. And I was very nervous of other people and how they perceive me. And yeah, so I was very sad as well. I remember it was just before Christmas and New Year's, and I was like, oh no, now I can't go to New Year's. And I think that's just being a 22-year-old in that mindset. I was like thinking about the jewels and the things that I was going to do like that. I didn't really think. I remember in hospital, they were also telling me like, no, you can still do the jobs you want, luckily with your degree. And I was, it never clicked. Yeah, I was like, okay, we'll get there. And luckily, I think having that space just to like sit in it, literally, is where it sort of became normal again.
Yeah. And as you depict the times after the accident, which leads me to my next question, the physical and emotional recovery must have been exceptionally overwhelming. You speak so much about the fear of the unknown, which I think anyone in any space, unknown is very uncharted and very scary. What did those early months of rehab and adjustment look like for you? I know you had to map out your apartment, simple things like going into a mall. Which entrance are you using? What did it look like?
So I thought it would just be easier to move back home and be back in Durban. As I said, I was in Sandton. Yeah. So I kind of just said goodbye to my Sandton chapter and packed up my things. The drive from Sandton, I actually was in an ambulance. They drove me back to Hillcrest Hospital. And that felt like a big low blow to my confidence and everything, because the drive there had hold with so much possibility and excitement.
Yes. And you left in your car and you're coming back in an ambulance.
It was really hard to have that moment, but I also just kept thinking, okay, we're going to be in your environment. Like, I've heard the ocean is healing, things like that. Like you keep saying, silver lining. I'm sorry, as small as it has to be, like, it really does help get you through just that moment, and then you see the bigger picture. So, yeah, getting home. I've spoken about this a few times in my chats that, like, it was weird being in a familiar area, but I'm different now.
You're not feeling familiar with yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that in that moment as well, there's like such a checklist to get through. Like, okay, this is how you're going to live alone. This is how you're going to drive. This is the physios you need to see twice a week. This is what you need to do. So that kind of kept you occupied. But in those moments of like quietness, or when I'd see something on social media that maybe I wasn't included in, I would instantly go back to, it's because of this wheelchair. It's because of this. And that just really hurts. As I said, like, being 22, my priorities were so different. It was like all my friends were having relationships or going overseas or that kind of thing, and it didn't really feel like that was a possibility for me at that point.
Yeah, and that sounds like some of the hardest things you had to endure, which is my next question. The hardest things you had to come to terms with, like you're saying, we always internalize anything on social media that it's because of me. Because I said this, they're not inviting me anymore. You're feeling like because of the condition that I'm in right now is the reason why my friends maybe don't invite me to certain places or certain things. What were some of the hardest things you had to deal with during that time?
I was very fortunate to have some really good friends who visited me every day in hospital and made everything funny. And I actually have this really cute photo I should post one day of my two best friends getting in wheelchairs with me, and all of us wheeling around together, and like that was really funny and fun, and there was lots of good times. I know it sounds very sad, but when it's 24/7, you do is find the silver linings and you find things.
You've
funny.
mastered that. I'll say that. Yeah, you have absolutely mastered silver lining in everything.
But I mustn't be too optimistic about everything. I've been in therapy since my accident, and I've had to like go through things that have been triggering me. So basically what you've just asked, do
you mind sharing one trigger that
one of them was like, I remember when the first time I went into the mall, I just had so many eyes on me, and I'd never experienced that before, like, and it was because of my wheelchair. Like, why is this young girl in a wheelchair? And people instantly look at your legs and instantly want to see what's wrong. And it feels very invasive when you're so sensitive in that moment. So I really struggled to go out in public for a second, especially by myself. I always would want my best friend with me or something. Figuring out the parking was also interesting. I've gone down a whole path of like people who abuse the parkings, and they tell me I'm just going to be 5 minutes. That thing is literally real, and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna sit in my car and wait for you
to run in
exactly
while I'm waiting here. People are just so insensitive.
And just to like say, it's not because it's closer. It's honestly so that I can open my door all the way to bring the wheelchair next to me to climb into my wheelchair. So if I parked anywhere else, I can't actually open my door all the way.
It's true.
So when I was fighting this cause a few years ago, I said, like, just make all the wheelchairs on the other side of the parking lot so no one will use them. And then people say, no, that's dangerous because now you're wheeling across
the parking lot
and you're short and no one can see you. So it is quite hard to like learn. I'm still learning 8 years on.
Wow, 8 years on. Do you ever experience moments of hopelessness, and how do you work through them? You mentioned you're going through therapy and it's helped you a lot to see silver linings. But did you ever experience moments of hopelessness? I mean, you did speak a little bit about it, but is there a specific time that you say, oh, that was the darkest time for me?
The darkest time. I think the pandemic was quite hard, just being like isolated in that kind of situation. But I also started my business then, so you can see I'm instantly looking. I know.
Jodi Silver Lining.
Okay, let me keep it real. Okay. I'll say that hopelessness is quite a hard word. I think I just still get like a little bit frustrated here and there. So like I'll be invited to meet a client or something and get there, and there's a tiny little step, and I'm like. Because they didn't let me know, so maybe I could have asked someone to come with me, but now I have to ask my new client, like, do you mind pushing me up the step? And you kind of little moments where I'm like, oh, I really just wish I knew about this.
Yeah.
Even when I stay at accommodation and there's like higher shelves and I can't reach things, but then you like find ways to go around it. So it's okay. But it just, in that moment of frustration, you're like, oh, this is like now an extra thing I have to think about on top of the rest of the day I have ahead of me. So stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe also like the prices of things in the disability world, like my wheelchair and stuff like that. So yeah, there's definitely moments that have made things a bit harder.
Wow. I mean, listening to your stories is incredible. I followed you on Instagram and I scrolled back your Instagram and it was quite eye-opening to see you in your wheelchair and scroll back and see you standing and see you before the accident. And I wonder if you ever do that, where you scroll back your pictures to look back at who you were before 8 years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
Or is it a chapter that you're like, listen, this is my new life. I don't want to actually have to.
So right now, like I'm in a phase of my life where I'm trying to pay respect to the old Jodi and what she would have wanted. So one of my dreams was to build a house, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. And I like to think like, oh my gosh, this was a dream when I was 18, before the wheelchair, before any rubbish. Like this is something that hasn't changed in my heart. So things like that, I'm very excited about. My friends have always included me, so I am lucky with that. Like I was a bridesmaid for a few years at different events, and that was really cool. It's definitely made me stronger and have to do things that I'm not always comfortable with, but I get on with it. My old pictures, it's weird. Sometimes I do want to post them, but I don't know. They're old now. Like I don't need to post old photos. I like who I am. There's also moments where I wish an outfit I'm wearing would look better if I was standing up.
Right.
Because I'm still just a girl.
Yeah.
So there's still little moments, but I think I've taken on this role of I like being different, and I like, we have fun. When I go to nightclubs, people like come and dance with me.
Yes.
So
I can imagine that. Must
we
be
make
good
the most
fun.
of it.
Right. Now you've achieved incredible things since your injury, right? Let's talk a little bit about surfing. How did you discover parasurfing? Because honey, me and a surfboard. I don't know if it's these curves, but honey, me and a surfboard, it's just not happening. How did you discover that? How did you get into it? What made you do it?
So Carol, I went through another phase where I was just like say yes to everything. Like I think I've told you I went skydiving. I've done like such silly things that I was just open to any adventure at that point, and one of them included surfing. So I pitched up to the Durban beachfront one Saturday, and I actually just wanted to watch, but they threw me in the water, and I had such a jaw. And I definitely think it was the community. Everyone was just so like, "Go Jodi!" And I think I needed that cheering on at that stage. And then I remember they started advertising that surf champs were coming up and you must enter, and I messaged one of the ladies and I was like, can I enter this? Like, how does this work? And she was like, of course. And I ended up winning champs that year, which was just set me on this path of loving being in the ocean and competing and having the best time.
Wow. And having the best time. In 2021, you won the KZN Parasurfing Championships in the Women Prone Assist Division.
Yes.
That's huge. And talking about unknown territory, here you are, paralyzed from the chest down, going into the ocean, okay, on a surfboard, and then winning this. What was that like, winning this title?
I remember they called up like 5 of us, and they went through like who's 5th and 4th and 2nd, and then I was like, wait, does that mean I've won? So I was definitely in shock. It was so cool. It was just a really awesome moment.
Well, fast forward to 2025, you placed 3rd at the SA Parasurfing Champs.
Yes.
What drives you to keep doing these competitions and stay in the sport and being consistent?
Oh, you just got to work on that tan.
Okay.
No, I do love it, and it's an opportunity to be on my chest instead of being in such a normal pose all the time at the gym or swimming or something. It's so nice to be on your chest and moving the board, and it's just a different sport that I don't really get an opportunity to do.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You also took part in the Blind and Deaf Society's Navigator Rally, right? As a paraplegic driver. So tell us about that. You had hand controls. What was it? Like what happened?
So it's actually like a scavenger hunt. Basically, there's someone next to you that's blind, and they have a page with Braille, and they read you the directions. So we started at Suncoast.
It's like Amazing Race vibes.
Literally.
Yeah.
And we all went, and then the person next to you would say, turn left at the robot. And it was so funny because one of my good friends did it as well. And she said, like, when they would say, turn left at the robot, they were no robots. So now she obviously missed something and had to go back. And and then basically you get navigated from Durban to a secret location. And then you have to drive back. So the secret location was all the way in Hillcrest.
Wow.
And my driver took us there. And it was really cool. It was good teamwork.
Yeah.
It was just a normal car with hand controls that I drive every day. So yeah, it was a really fun opportunity again.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, you've been so open about your story, the journey, everything. What do you wish more people understood about life with disability?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think that people should be more aware that this could happen to anyone at any moment.
Yeah.
I also feel like sometimes I'll be with a friend or something and someone will come up to me and say like, what happened to you? And then I'll tell them and then they'll go away and my friend will say that was quite rude. And I always think it's actually better that they ask because then it's an opportunity to explain
And educate.
And I'd rather they do that than hide their faces and look away and pretend you're not there. There's there's not really a right way to go about it. But I do think that sometimes people also put people with disabilities on a pedestal and we're just trying to live our normal life. Like I feel like they're either hiding away or you're this amazing Olympian, like I was saying. So I'm just trying to show that there's a middle ground where you can have a normal life, have a normal dinner parties with your friends and go on holidays. And I think I'm getting there.
Yeah. I love the fact that you say it's better for people to ask than make assumptions or just pretend like they don't see you. Because I think a lot of the time people don't know how to ask without possibly being offensive. Or, it could have just happened and I'm asking and maybe it's a trigger for you. So you don't know how to navigate that.
True.
So I think it's lovely that you're saying just ask. I think sometimes when you ask in a humble, more I'd love to be educated, it does somehow make things a lot easier for
Bridges.
both. Yeah, absolutely. Now, some people are facing some life-changing situations right now. There's someone watching this podcast or listening to this podcast who's just heard that they may never see again or they may never walk again or whatever the case may be. What do you say to somebody who's navigating that day for you 8 years ago?
I just think take it day by day. I think what got me through was making a list of things I wanted to achieve, but not setting an exact timeline. I remember my goals would go from literally being able to wheel to the top of the driveway and back to now like, oh, let's make sure that I get 5 new clients and go to Europe and do this. My goals are so much bigger, but I think I would have overwhelmed myself if I thought like that back then. You just have to take things bite size at that point. And if being able to make a cup of tea by yourself, blind or deaf or anything, like that's the only goal you need to achieve for that day, and just pat yourself on the back because that will pave the way or be your building block for the next goal that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. And what has this journey specifically taught you about yourself?
Sure. That's a good one. I think that we are more resilient than we think. But also there was so many years where all I had to do was be strong. Now I'm really trying to be in my feminine energy and understand and go through what it is actually like to have trauma and just work through that kind of stuff. So I don't know, it's a bit of both. It's being able to understand why you're feeling that way, but then also going into survival mode sometimes and just getting through it. And you can do both.
Yeah. What I love about your story is just like I mentioned earlier, the way you find silver linings in everything. And a lot of us struggle to see the good in any bad situation. A lot of us struggle, and clearly either the therapy is working really well in helping you always look for good things, shout out, or it's just your DNA. You're just that person who's always had silver lining. Before the accident, were you always a silver lining kind of person? Or has this changed you?
No, now looking back, like, I can't believe the things I used to complain about. Like,
okay, so
yeah. But I can't really justify it because it was a different life. But I don't know. I feel silly for being upset about things that I wish were my problems now, but that sounds so dramatic to say.
Yeah.
I know in hospital when I was lying there and I didn't know what was going to happen and how hard things were going to be, and my friends would come tell me their issues. I'm like, I can't really hear this right now.
Yeah, like, please, can you stop? The fact that your nails broke, I don't have time for that, girl.
Yeah, like, oh no, you have a flat tire. Like, they'll sort you out. Don't worry. Like,
Right.
So, but also then I have to, again, zone out and be like, zoom out and be like, okay, well, that's their problem, and you can still relate to someone, even if it's not your issue. So, yeah, having understanding for everybody has also helped me realize that people have had understanding for me, even though this isn't their situation. So many nice people have come into my life and impacted me.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Jodi had dreams at 22. What does Jodi dream for Jodi's life going forward? What are your dreams for now?
Well, I'm very lucky to be in a very happy relationship.
Okay, shout out.
It's nice to be planning things together now and planning for a family one day. And he came in at the right time because now I'm picturing this house that we're going to have together. And yeah, so that whole side of life is looking pretty good. I just want to keep growing my business. We're going to Europe next year. Yeah, life definitely isn't going to slow down for me. I feel like I'm in my best chapter so far, and it's looking pretty good, Carol.
When I spoke to you on the radio a couple of weeks ago, you said your life now is your happiest life.
Yeah.
And that's insane, right?
I think it just puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so happy. Well, at that point, I was in hospital for 4 months. I didn't even get to see the sunshine. Like, now I live by the beach and I live by the safari park, and I'm so grateful for those little things. And I think sometimes you can't experience the highs without the lows. So, yeah, maybe I am more excited and grateful because of the lows, but life just looks so shiny and great.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Jodi, your story is the essence of this podcast, The Comeback. If you had to define your comeback in just a sentence, for example, what would you say?
Oh, wow. I like saying I have a really good laugh.
I love it. It sounds like you've been hanging out with Rory. Very Rory vibe.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. That's a beautiful one. That's a beautiful one. Well, Jodi, anything else you want to share with us that you want everybody to know?
Thank you so much, Carol, for reaching out and giving people like me a platform to chat and show that we aren't all normal. And maybe if people heard this and tuned in halfway through and didn't realize that this was about someone who you might see in the mall in an hour, it's good to know that there's a whole person behind there and a whole fun story. And since we're there, is there one thing that if government or society would just do more of, it would make life easier for someone living just
with a
ramps, please.
Ramps, no?
Even if restaurants have a couple of steps, you can literally get makeshift ramps that are just to keep in the back, and you see someone with a wheelchair or a walker or a pram. Like, it isn't just wheelchairs. There's so many things in life that people do just need a little ramp to make life easier. So that would be great, guys.
That would be great, guys. Well, Jodi, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I still think you, Jodi Silver Lining Kroone, because wow, the way you've depicted your story. I brought tissues, Jodi. I was like, we're gonna cry.
Nah.
I was like, we're gonna cry. We are ready. But you have just told that story with so much heart, and I hope that whoever's watching or listening to this podcast will see that in every low there is a high.
Definitely.
And there's always a silver lining. So thank you so much for your honesty, for your incredible spirit. You are proof that even when life throws you challenges, you still can do things. You can still live the best life. You can be extraordinary like you have done. So well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol.
If this story inspired you, please share it with someone. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with other people. And don't forget to follow The Comeback to hear more powerful stories of resilience and hope. Until next time, for me, Carol Ofori. Bye-bye.
The Comeback with Carol Ofori is an East Coast Radio podcast.